Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God!
Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no! That's massive!
This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God! God, what?
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Here on the iRacing Esports Network, once again, we turn the clock back a little in Australian and New Zealand GT racing. It's the Epiroc Summer Series, round 2 from the circuit to Spa-Francorchamps, doing GT3 machinery this time instead of GTE, alternating throughout the season as per usual. My name is Reese Gardiner for SimSpeed TV, and alongside me, David Haynes. David, we've got another 45-minute race on our hands for tonight. 12-car field, so not the biggest field that we've seen for an Epiroc Sprint Series Australia-style race, but we've got some very good competitors out on the track at the moment, so it should be a good one.
Yeah, no doubt. A lot of names that people will recognize. We've got Ross Rizzo, we've got John Peasnick, always a contender in GT3 cars. Seems like he can wrangle lap time out of just about anything. And today, it looks like it's going to be the McLaren GT3 car. So we're interested to see how he fares. That thing can be quite a rocket in a straight line sometimes. And this is a circuit that is long with some long straights and some high speeds. We'll see how he goes. But we've also got plenty of other names. Reese Gasol, we've got Luis Polo Gallon, we've got Trent Thomas. And really, that's all you need to have a good race. We've seen those guys battle it up against each other, race after race in series like this. So that's really one to look forward to. Of course, this is a classic circuit for some GT racing as well. And a pit stop in there to mix it up.
Yes, indeed. Fuel tank restriction as per usual in these 45-minute races. And talking about the track, David, it is a beautiful flowing circuit, one of the most famous circuits in the world, and for very good reason. A full 7 kilometers long, and it's got 18 turns, all of which provide their own challenge. Most notably turns 2, 3, and 4, the Radillon Eau Rouge section, flat out in downforce cars, but in GT3 machinery like this, it's right on the ragged edge, as with most of the corners around here.
Well, yeah, no doubt. Every corner has a name, and for every corner, you can think of a famous piece of racing history that has happened there. You've got Michael Schumacher, Mika Hakkinen, Ricardo Zonta down the Kemmel Straight. You've got every other corner around here that's seen thrills and spills. Blanchimont, high speeds, full commitment corner. A lot of cars like this, it's just not quite flat out, but it's tempting to risk it, and that is where some drivers make their lap time. It's where other drivers come undone.
Main overtaking spots that you'll see are down at La Source and at Bruxelles as well. These are the standings. Reece Gasol currently on top on 50 points. John Peasnick in second. This is basically the finishing order from the first round at Sebring last week. So we've seen quite a few of the guys their last round not turn up for this one, but the usual suspects, Gasol, Peasnick, Rizzo, Crisp, they're all here and looking forward to getting on for another night of racing. Rizzo has decided to go for the BMW, interestingly. Trick Sim Sport used to run the BMW, but then switched to the Merc. So this is another bit of a blast from the past. The BMW, good choice for this place. It likes those long corners.
Yeah, we're certainly used to seeing Trick Sim Sports as an inseparable block and working on all of their little setup tweaks together. And for example, in the Sprint Series Australia, them being, 8 or so strong BMW M8s, but here, bit of a split within the team. That's not necessarily a bad thing. We'll see how Rizzo goes in the BMW. We'll see how Trent Thomas goes in his Mercedes. And certainly, the two of them are first and second in this warm-up session, and they've got some good times in qualifying as well. So anyone's game, and of course there'll be some differences in tire wear, some differences in fuel consumption between these varied manufacturers. So look forward to that. Who's quick out of the gates might not be the person taking home the silverware at the end.
Yeah, well, speaking of who's fastest out of the gates, Luis Paulo Gallon just topping the session on a 2-minute 15.4. That is some big pace from Gallon in this practice session. No one able to quite get near that. But as the session comes to an end, one message from our title sponsor, Epiroc, presenting the starting grid.
iRacing, you.
There are lots of opportunities to grow in Epiroc, no matter what background you come from. I come from a technical background and I now work in HR. This is what inspires me.
Epiroc Australia is looking for passionate people to be part of our global team and to make a real difference for our customers. If you're ready to start a new journey, visit us at epiroc.com.au. So, starting off this grid, Reece Gasol has qualified on pole for this one in his McLaren. Luis Paulo Gallon alongside him, John Peasnick, Ross Rizzo, and Daniel Misdale making up the top 5. Philip Morton, Martin Crisp, 6th and 7th. Cameron Stuber makes it 8th. Trent Thomas starting from the 5th row with Alex Court. Final 2 cars in this field, Aaron Specchio and Sean Reed, making up the back row in their 2 Mercedes. We are about to go green. And my goodness, the start at Spa is one you want to watch, because coming along that start-finish straight, out of the slow bus stop chicane into the equally slow La Source hairpin. Always time for some spice here in the Ardennes Mountains. So the pace car pulling in. Porsche pace car into the pits. Reece Gasol now controls the field and he decides to go early, getting a big jump, and Peasnick following him. It is a 1-2 for the JP Racing team out of the gate. Luis Paulo Gallon down to 3rd, and coming up on the inside of Ross Rizzo, Daniel Misdale at La Source. Potential position change there, side by side on the run down to Eau Rouge. Rizzo with the run slotting in. So it's a pretty calm start so far.
You can bet the teammates at JPR discussed that one before the start. Great jump by Peasnick up into 2nd. On board here with Misdale, who didn't get that pass completed on Ross Rizzo. We'll see what he does in a straight line. The most recent update to the iRacing platform, a slight reduction in torque in the balance of performance to these Mercedes cars, which were typically pretty strong in a straight line. Philip Morton's run into a bit of early trouble. I reckon he might have cut a tiny bit of Eau Rouge Radion. That looked like a slowdown penalty, not seeing a lot of damage, but it's so easy to just use some of the runoff too aggressively there and get a warning from the stewards that tells you give up some of that time.
Yes, and that ooh from me just a couple of moments ago was Luis Paulo Gallon showing the nose to John Peasnick at the Malmedy chicane. You can see using all of the AstroTurf there, not worrying about the incident limit system. Luis Paulo Gallon, a very aggressive driver and loves being in these hard racing conditions, fighting for podiums, fighting for wins, and Peasnick, no stranger to him either. Gallon very confident on the brakes.
Yeah, certainly, definitely in these GT3 cars of different heritages, you really see a lot more of the differences between the manufacturers than we often see in the GTE cars. Like I say, the differences in the tyre wear and the differences in the fuel consumption is one that we're going to have to watch, see how it goes. McLaren, not as bad on the fuel consumption as all of those flames out the tailpipes suggest. That's just the system that keeps the turbos spooled up.
Yes, indeed, but we all love a fire-breathing monster. And oh my goodness, we're getting a modem simulation replay because there are troubles for Rizzo. He is around, and this is what happened to him. It was down at Stavelot, which is a corner you don't often see people going off at. Looks like maybe actually out of the second one. Yeah, have a look at that. Just catching the gravel with the rim of his tire. That was all it took to send him around.
Look at all those cars speeding past it.
Yeah.
Probably upwards of 200 kilometers an hour in that section. Good job by everyone behind not to hit him. In that particular tight camera shot, you only see the cars flying past in 3 or 4 frames. So trouble for Rizzo early, which is a real shame, but lucky to not have an incredible amount of damage on that car and maybe have taken one of his competitors with him.
Yes, indeed. The most important thing is he's able to keep going and he didn't have any damage. So Rizzo, we know that he has a habit of coming back from tight situations. We shall certainly see the same from him today if past events are anything to go by. So this top 3 battle, Gasol seems pretty safe and Peasnick maintaining the gap to his teammate, but Gallon still keeping up the pressure here. And I noticed that
it goes a little wide, but he'll hold on to it for the minute.
Yeah, he does. And throughout the rest of the field, seems like things are pretty spread out at the moment. Daniel Misdale with a little bit of a problem. I think he had a bit of oversteer on the exit of Jackie X corner, so he's lost a couple of tenths. He'll be fighting with Cameron Stuber there for 4th place.
Yep, indeed. Back up at the lead, the 2 teammates a bit closer than before. Gallon really prefers the drive out of some of the slower corners. I think through the super fast corners and in a straight line, the McLaren is doing a pretty solid job for these guys for the minute. No one getting away from anyone, and this is one of those tracks where the slipstream and the draft matters a fair bit. You spend a lot of time in 5th and 6th gear doing high speeds like these guys doing 250 kilometers an hour right now. That's where the air resistance is pretty severe, and riding along in the hole punched by another car can certainly help you. One interesting thing you notice there, Peasnick rolling out of the throttle earlier than his teammate, and it's signaled to the world by those little backfires off throttle.
Yeah, exactly. Putting on the fuel-saving game right at the very start. And with the lap around here taking about 2 minutes and 17 seconds on average, I'd say we'd be getting around a 20 to 22 lap race. So with the, it seems like a short amount of laps, yes, but because of the length of the straights, because of the length of the lap, every single bit of fuel saving you can do down these straights matters. And you can see that the draft is working very well for the JP Racing McLarens. They've just pulled away from Gallon here, and Peasnick well in the draft of Gasol. And I wonder if there's going to be a switch here. Peasnick showing the nose, but will he roll out of the throttle early? It looks like it is a switch between those teammates. Gasol letting Peasnick by, and that tells us more than one thing about their potential strategy.
Yeah, bit of a swap there. They were side by side into the braking zone, so Peasnick's gone and grabbed it. Gasol obviously not going to fight it too hard at this point, but it wasn't the most coordinated move I've ever seen. Gallon looking for every opportunity now to try and keep the pressure on Gasol. Just couldn't quite do it down the hill this time. And interesting to see what happens here. Peasnick's now at 2 spots from where he qualified and trying to build a bit of a gap at the lead of the race.
Yeah, you can already see he's pushing pretty hard through some of these corners. I saw a little twitch of his car through Pouon. And the McLaren, not the nicest car to drive out of all the GT3s. It does have a tendency to turn on you at certain points. But Piesnik and Gasol have a love for this car, and it suits their driving style. So they stuck with it for many years and have brought it back out for this series. Question is if they can keep it together at the front, because we all know that Luis Polo Gallon, once he senses a gap, he's going to go for it. He's inspired by Senna. Oh dear.
Big wiggle there for Gasol. That happens in this McLaren. The rear just getting twitchy on him. Oh, he's lost it now.
Wow, proper lose coming up to the bus stop chicane. Bit of fishtailing there. Gasol couldn't save it. So the JP Racing 1-2 in complete jeopardy now. Modem simulation replay of what happened. It looked to me just like he got a little bit too much oversteer on entry.
Yeah, maybe like half the wheel on the grass on the outside. That gave him a wiggle. Then when he bounced across the grass again, then came the loop around. And then at some point in the grass there, the pit lane speed limiter was on. Not there, but yeah, after he spins it, there's the flash of the headlights that signifies the pit lane speed limiter was on, or he stalled the engine, one or the other. You can see it in that frame. I was just wondering for a second, maybe he'd gone into the corner, accidentally engaged his pit lane speed limiter, and that caused the problem. But no, I think it was just the instability of the car at the super high speeds.
Well, that's promoted a few positions up the front of the field, and one of them is the now third place battle. Cameron Stuber chasing down Daniel Misdale for that position, and these guys have come together. Misdale not quite able to keep up the pace and consistency, and Stuber within half a second.
Gallon's in the lead now. Problems for Piesnik as well. Have the temperatures come up on the tyres for those McLarens, and now they're starting to give up? We were watching that other battle, and I saw it on my timing screen, so yet another replay. It's gone from a 1-2 for JPR to now a bit of a struggle. Again, the rear tyres just giving up.
Yeah, and giving up on entry, interestingly. We haven't seen the McLarens break free on exit yet. It's just on that turn-in when the front tyres get loaded up. Maybe a little bit of tyres on the white line. Well, Piesnik has come away from it with a small amount of damage to his right-hand side. So the day's gone from really good to not so good for JP.
Yeah, he's still in there. He's still in that fight, but that's just a lot of instability in the car, isn't it? Both of those drivers struggling with keeping the rear planted. Maybe the Mercedes drivers are going to come back at it later in the race, despite not having that outright one-lap pace.
Yeah, well, you say that, and I was just looking at Gallon coming out of Paul Frere Curve, had a massive slide, so they must be having a couple of issues up the front in the Mercedes as well. But further back in the field, fighting for 6th and 7th, Alex Court and Martin Crisp. They've got Philip Morton right behind them, and the recovering Reece Gasol, who finds himself in 9th after a spin.
Yeah, indeed. He's looking at that recovery, and the two battling in front is helping Morton close in as well. So suddenly, 4 cars here up this difficult section. Tough to follow there, but you get a good run into the slipstream, and then a move looks possible down the end of the straight here. Morton with a great run there as well. I'm not sure he's going to be close enough, but Crisp is doing everything he can to follow in the draft of Court. Court goes a bit in on the brakes, indeed. Pressure is on him now.
Yeah, certainly. Alex Court losing a bit of momentum right in the middle of the Malmedy section. And now Martin Crisp looking for a move. In terms of passing zones, you probably won't get a proper one until Fagné or Stavelot, because the next few corners incredibly fast and flowing. Alex Court, bit too early on the throttle there, and spinning, taking out Philip Morton with him.
Morton, how did he hold on to that one? We've seen the grass is just so treacherous. That's what caught out Gasol, and then trying to hold on to the car, trying to recover across the bumps in the grass has been what's undone Court. First, he pushes wide onto the AstroTurf, the dirty stuff, little tap on the tyre barrier, but then grazing the side of Philip Morton.
Well saved from Morton, though. I'm surprised he managed to get it back onto the track so quickly and keep going. This is the view from on board his machine. You'll see Cork just getting on the throttle, pushing wide. And at this point, Morton knows he can't do much. But back onto the grass and keeps going, albeit with reduced straight line speed. He is now side by side with Gasol, who takes the position.
Yeah, bit of a wounded car there, and Philip Morton maybe a tiny bit scared by that incident. So Gasol trying to recover his way back up. Says the fastest lap for John Peasnick. So maybe he's got some of the confidence back. He's also still in the draft with Luis Polo Gallon as well. Ross Rizzo, more adventures. And this time it's a unique pit entry, and I hope that's legal.
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't be looked kindly upon in real life, but this is sim racing. Luis Paulo Gallon and John Peasnick fighting together at the front of this field. We'll keep an eye on Rizzo just to see what the go is, but you can tell Peasnick now sitting in that draft, rolling out of the throttle just slightly early. And update on Ross Rizzo, he has left the server, a retirement for Ross. That's a big shame.
Yeah, that's interesting, uncharacteristic from him. So that is a real shame for that Trick Sim Sports guy, and we were hoping to see the BMW make a triumphant return, and unfortunately it's not looking so strong for him. His teammate Trent Thomas is making some moves up the field into 5th. We don't think we're going to see any more Ross Rizzo tonight, unfortunately.
Yes, indeed. But we still have a good race on our hands for the lead, and looking at these cars going around the circuit, something that we were talking about before the broadcast, actually. iRacing's new specular maps, new graphics feature that allows the cars to reflect things more realistically. John Peasnick's car showing a very fine usage of those specular maps. It's a beautiful car.
It is very, very shiny indeed. You need to be careful that a bowerbird doesn't grab it to try and make its nest or something. Certainly the front half there, you can, do your makeup in that if you need to.
I think I'd probably check the trim of my beard, but horses for courses. John Peasnick incredibly late on the brakes, very deep as well. And Gasol continuing his fight up the field, facing off against Martin Crisp. He has a huge amount of pace on a lot of these guys further down, so it shouldn't be too difficult for Gasol, but still, pride would definitely be wounded after that spin.
Yeah, and he needs to be careful going forward through Blanchimont. Everyone does at high speed. You clip the curb or you get some grass on entry, but here into La Source, throws it down the inside, and if he can get good drive off the corner, he might well have that job done. Not 100% sure Crisp was expecting that, but that's when some of the best moves happen.
Yeah, exactly, and the move is done. So Gasol in front just in time for the Eau Rouge complex, but Crisp in the draft. Because we know that the McLaren has good straight line speed. The Merc a little bit lower on the straight line speed stakes, but still a very well handling and easy to drive car. Crisp with a lot of confidence around the outside, but a little bit of contact there between those two. And Gasol stamping his authority on that 7th place now.
Yep, trying to come back in the slipstream was Crisp, but it didn't quite work. Battle for the final step on the podium continues. Stuber still fighting with Misdale. Trent Thomas has caught them bit by bit over the last couple of laps. Now he's looking menacing in 5th place. Very much looking to size up Cameron Stuber at the moment. Good run through the final bit of poo on there. We haven't seen many moves into Funyas yet, but it's possible.
Yeah, it's a quick chicane is Funya, but it's got enough of a tightness and enough of braking on approach that you can chuck one up the inside if you're brave enough. Trent looking for a gap, any kind of gap on Cameron Stuber there, losing a lot of pace in that section relative to Misdale.
Yeah, Trent Thomas looking very frustrated there as well. So we'll see where he can get a move done. But if he's going to follow in the footsteps of some other drivers, it might be into La Source. See there, John Peasnick. Big wiggle through Blanchimont again. quick hands to save that one, I'm sure. You could see from offboard, the rear, with very little warning, trying to get away from him. He holds on to it. And that great bit of the graphics that, well, there's only one John Peasnick, and I'm sure he's happy to be that man.
Yeah, exactly. And we got a slow motion look at this incident here. Look at the detail on that exhaust flame. Beautiful. And there is the moment of correction. Amazing that that only takes place in a little fraction of a second. Shows you the amount of skill required to wheel one of these things around. I mean, GT3 cars are designed to be drivable by gentleman racers as well as pros, but they still require a lot of skill to save on the limit.
Looks like he gets just a tiny bit of the curb on the inside of the corner, and the car bouncing down off that, it does not like. And he holds on to it at high speed there, carries on, but it certainly didn't give him the momentum off Blanchimont that he was looking for down into the bus stop chicane.
Philip Morton comes out of the pits and with a fresh car on his hands. So he'll be starting his recovery drive. And the gap at the front staying consistent. Peasnick seems okay with sitting behind Gallon at the moment. He knows that it's not yet half race distance, not yet time to push.
Yeah, still in the first half of the race. Of course, in a 45-minute race, that is at 22 minutes 30 seconds remaining. So we're still some laps from that. A couple of drivers who decided to take their pit stop in the first half. It's the likes of Philip Morton, Alex Court, and Sean Reed. These two men have not yet, and at this point, Stuber is backing up Trent Thomas a little bit. Misdale's starting to get away. You see Stuber not getting to the apex there. And then through this section, he might pick the pace up a little bit again. But yeah, Stuber reacting to the pressure behind from Thomas and letting Misdale get away into third place. It's not what Trent Thomas wants either, because I'm sure he, on pace, fancies a podium. But it's getting less likely the more he's held up behind Stuber.
Yeah, and Stuber's going very preemptively defensive there. Trent, obviously, a lot faster in the Pouhon-Fagnes section, as I've noticed on the last couple of laps. So that's where Stuber is concentrating most of his defense. But one draft up this section could potentially see Thomas get by. It's a better run from Stuber out of La Source, but only by a little bit. It's once they get to the top of the hill that the draft will come into play.
Yep, exactly. You can almost roll out of the throttle a little bit for Eau Rouge at the bottom of the hill, so long as you hit the line going up the hill and open that throttle very, very early. The mid-corner speed matters, but really the exit down the long straight, very, very critical indeed. And it's the only thing keeping Stuber in touch with Daniel Misdale, and to an extent helping him defend from Trent Thomas. Stuber's not a complete sitting duck without a draft himself, although surely Trent Thomas is right comfortably underneath the rear wing of the driver in front. And who's looming in the background?
Hello, Reese Gasul. It's been only a few minutes, and we're seeing you once again, catching up to the back of Trent and Cameron, and it looks like it's at a rate of
his own
knots.
car. Because look at that. I mean, he had another one of those big wiggles we're seeing out of these McLarens, where the rear is planted right up until it's not, and that one actually was on corner exit.
Yeah, well, there's a first time for everything, I guess, and the battle for the lead heating up as well. We'll see if there are any other of those corner exit sliding issues on Peasnick's car, but a very good run from him coming up the backstretch towards Blanchimont, but I would suspect there won't be a move just yet. Oh, showing the nose just a little bit at Blanchimont, enough to unsettle Gallon just slightly. Peasnick's starting to turn it up.
More so than some of the other Mercedes we've seen, Luis Polo Gallon driving an incredibly pointy car. He's got dynamics very similar to these McLarens at the moment, where the rear is just trying to step out through the fast stuff. I imagine he's done everything he can to wind off the downforce from that car to help him down the long straights here, maybe to the detriment of the aero balance. Trent Thomas into the pit lane, so he's had enough of following Stuber around. He is going to get his pit stop done and hope for a little bit of an undercut. Track temperatures continuing to rise now up to 36 degrees. Some of these guys may be struggling with the heat in the tires, going for a gentle stroll down pit lane, sitting in the box a minute, taking your fuel, might help them cool off just a little bit, help you get them back underneath you. We see that happen sometimes, even without a tire change. Doing the pit stop just lets the tires have a tiny break from their usual 250-kilometer-an-hour torture.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about cycling the heat as well. The fact that Spa is a track with so many long, big load-bearing corners means that tires do get a big workout here. So if you can take care of your tires, if you can be a bit smoother on those steering inputs, you'll have a much better time and potentially have a much better pace all up. But still, cooling them down in the pits is an excellent idea nonetheless. Peasnick and Gallon continuing to fight. And question on my mind is, when are these guys going to come in? Because they seem pretty comfortable out the front. Their pace is still really good. Might they try and go for a late one?
Yeah, my thoughts is you want to do something different to the other guy in this situation. If you're Gallon and trying to go long, kind of want Peasnick to pit early, maybe. Yeah, so I think what Peasnick can do here is at some point he might get some feedback from Reese Gasol. I just don't know.
Oh,
Big wiggle, big save. Luis Polo Gallon. He's doing his best Reese Gasol John Peasnick impersonation, and well, he held on to it that time, but that was as worrying as we've seen.
Yeah, certainly. It's proving you right there, David, how Luis Paulo Gallon running a very pointy Mercedes. Now, Cameron Stuber has got a JP Racing McLaren in his rearview mirrors as we see Misdale jumping into the pits. So we'll see how he comes out relative to Trent Thomas, because Trent obviously was hoping to undercut Stuber. So how will it affect him versus Misdale? Decreased gap potentially. So let's see what Reese Gasol can do here versus Stuber. Up the hill, down the straight. The McLaren obviously with the advantage in this section of the circuit. I reckon this will be done by Lacombe.
Yeah, it certainly depends about the run up the hill here. Pretty measured from Gasol, using as much of the curb as he can get away with, trying to straighten that line up the hill. I think it's worked pretty well this time. He's right in the slipstream. If Luis Polo Gallon has a pointy Mercedes, Cameron Stuber has a pretty wide one, but is it wide enough to cover off Gasol in the braking zone? Just this time it is. Brave on the brakes, held the inside. That's enough for the moment. It's costing those two guys time, potentially, to Daniel Misdale and Trent Thomas.
Speaking of Misdale and Thomas, they have switched. Trent going
long
for...
stop for Misdale.
Yeah, long stop for Misdale. So obviously wanted to get a bit of damage repaired, I guess, because we got to remember he did have that incident a bit beforehand. So maybe getting some damage repaired. Nonetheless, Trent Thomas has got some clear air. Opposite of Reese Gasol right now, who is still trying to find his way past Stuber. On the outside through Fanier, you can do this. And Reese Gasol just did. Excellent usage of aerodynamics.
Gutsy, but I like it. And at some point you knew taking these super defensive lines from Cameron Stuber was just costing him time, and there must have been a way for Gasol to get through. Well, it's around the outside. Comes the inside. Great job by Gasol.
Yes, indeed.
Which of our leaders will pit? Neither of them this time.
So staying out for one more lap as we just go under 20 minutes to go. So 9 or 10 laps on the clock for these guys. And Stuber has elected not to go for the pits this time by. So I get the feeling he might end up losing out quite a bit to Trent Thomas if he doesn't pick up the pace a bit.
Yeah, it depends to what extent he can follow Reese Gasol along. Gasol's just pulling out over a second here. So if Cameron Stuber benefits a little bit from getting in the slipstream, then it's fine. But otherwise, the ship might have sailed for him. Those guys like Thomas and Misdale found themselves a bit of clean track, trying to lay in some faster laps, and certainly Thomas was faster than Stuber last time around.
Top two still in lockstep, coming through Jackie X turn, the place where Gasol and Peasnick have had a lot of their issues. Very difficult turn, that one. And coming into Puon, you see that the Peasnick has a nice handle on the suspension of that thing, very smooth through the corners. The McLaren's strength very much in these medium to high speed turns. You see Gallon's car rolling around a bit more in those high speed corners.
That's the thing about watching this McLaren is there's very, very little roll in the body, but you can tell the minute that Peasnick is on the brakes, so the pitch front to back on the car, you can tell when he opens up the throttle, you can tell when he puts on the brakes. It's interesting little dynamics in the handling of the car. And that McLaren, you can't muscle it about too much. You ask for a little and you're going to get a lot. That applies to the steering inputs, it applies to your braking inputs. You can't panic and apply too much input. It's got to be smooth, it's got to be subtle. It's a very British car in that way, a little understated.
Yes, indeed, but drawing a lot from Formula One technology. Of course, the MP412C was McLaren Automotive's first road car since the McLaren F1 designed by Gordon Murray. So a nice comeback for McLaren, and it has got some F1 tech in it. So a couple of handling characteristics similar to a single-seater. And into the slipstream is John Peasnick. This may very well be a move. In the draft very early down the straight, but Gallon protecting the inside. Peasnick rolling out of the throttle just a little bit early, gives it back to Gallon. He is comfortable to stay behind just a little bit longer, or is he? Showing the nose once again, making a mistake. Slight slide from the McLaren and losing all of that slipstream potentially.
Yeah, he definitely gave Luis Polo Gallon something to think about, but I'm really not sure he was going to get down the inside there if he couldn't get around the outside of the preceding corner. So I think that was more of a don't take anything for granted. I might throw a move somewhere sometime, but I'm not sure that one was ever really going to stick.
Well, Reece Gasol is now up into effective third, so JP Racing have got two cars on the podium once again, but not quite in the positions that they would have wanted at the start. We've got to remember that Peasnick and Gallon still have yet to pit. We don't exactly know how they're going to work out in that top three. Meanwhile, an on-track battle developing between Crisp and Morton. And Martin Crisp had a good showing at the GTE round last time out at Sebring. First time we've seen Philip Morton on track in the series and doing all right in 8th place, chasing him down.
Yeah, no doubt. Morton with an early pit stop, and he's gone a little bit wide out of the corner there. Formerly Rivage, now known as Brussels. And that's cost him just a little bit. But there's been a change for the lead of the race because it's a pit stop from Luis Polo Gallon. Peasnick stays out. We saw him rolling out of the throttle in places, maybe saving a little bit of fuel. He'll carry on into the lead of the race. This is a critical lap for him, assuming he's going to pit next lap, where 2/3 of the way through the race now, you really would expect that. Peasnick needs to go hammer and tongs on this lap. His teammate Gasol in the lane set him 2 for Cameron Stuber, so Peasnick going longer than anyone else in this race.
Well, he obviously thinks that he's saved enough fuel to have a red-hot go at it. And Trent Thomas in 5th place stands to gain out of this. Remember, he was struggling to get by Stuber before his pit stop. So we'll wait and see how this turns out between them. And for John Peasnick...
Oh, big incident.
Whoa.
Martin Crisp at the top of Eau Rouge Radion has
oh my goodness,
found
yes.
the wall very, very hard.
We got a safety car.
Safety car?
It has. We've got a safety car.
Oh, sorry, was that a Blanchimont? Wherever it was, we'll take a look. That is exit Blanchimont. Big drift onto the AstroTurf. Nose first. Would have killed the engine instantly, and then he's just a passenger there on the outside of the corner. My apologies for initially calling out the wrong corner, but yeah, big slide. No way he was catching and correcting that, unfortunately. Does this,
And you know who this
surely this hurts
hurts?
Peasnick?
It absolutely does hurt Peasnick because he has got to catch up and take his pit stop under safety car conditions. He'll end up losing a lot more time than he would have otherwise if it was under race conditions. So
Pit entry closed, of course,
Yeah.
right now. He'll come around and catch the safety car, and then the next time around the pits will open, and then hopefully the next time after that will go green, hoping for just 2 laps behind the safety car. That will soak up a lot of the remaining time of this race, though.
yeah, certainly will. Because the lap is so long around Spa, safety car laps around here generally last in excess of 3 minutes. So we may only have 3 or 4 minutes to go when we go green. So there goes Peasnick into the pits. Don't know if he's been given the pit road open message, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah,
So-
interesting.
So has Peasnick saved enough fuel to be able to have a nice short stop? Gallon just coming through the chicane now. He doesn't have to come into the pits. He will most likely overtake Peasnick here. And there he goes right on by the McLaren as Peasnick finishes his splash and dash. No tyres for him, but a few seconds worth of fuel. 10.7 stop for Peasnick. For Gallon, it was a 12.1 second stop, but thanks to the safety car, he ends up in front.
Yep, safety car, 97 kilometers an hour at pace car speed, and of course you mentioned this, a lap of 7 kilometers or so. Smarter people than me will have done the numbers already, how long a safety car lap takes.
And here we go, the field bunching up the top of the hill then. So this might actually work out okay for Peasnick and Gasol. They have the ability to coordinate their start and watch Gallon at the same time. I think we still got a fight on our hands for the win here.
Yeah, race control in communication with John Peasnick right now, and I think that pit stop legal, all good. He's in second place now, fuel to the end.
Yes, indeed. Notice that he had black flags cleared in Sims, so obviously all fine by race control in this circumstance. So let's take a look beyond the top 3 as they tour around. Trent Thomas managing to jump Stuber. He is now in 4th place behind the 2 JP Racing cars. Stuber is in 5th. Daniel Misdale finds himself in 6th. Philip Morton still has a chance there to take a top 6 right behind him. And then we got Alex Court and Aaron Specchio, the top 9. Specchio doing all right in this one, having started 11th, now in 9th. It's been a good, consistent drive from him. Sean Reed in 10th place, and I believe just making his way out of La Source, and he is the last car on track.
Yeah, he's got a way to go to catch all of the field, but I think he'll have time to do that. Certainly, right now, he's doing 250 kilometers an hour, while the rest of the field are doing about 95. So that would suggest about half a lap to catch the rest of the field. He'll get there and for the restart at the tail end of the field. It's definitely going to be some drivers to watch because it's brought the whole field back together, of course. And who can win that dash between Luis Paulo Gallon, between John Peasnick and Reece Gasol? All of them have shown that their cars are quick but difficult to push. Sean Reed, speaking of pushing,
no.
that is unfortunate to see.
Oh, very unfortunate. Pushing a bit too hard to catch up to the field and with a lot of damage to his car. Modem Simulation Replay. Thank you very much, Modem, for your support of SimSpeed TV and Sim Racing Exploits. Looks like just getting on the throttle too hard on the AstroTurf. Very low grip surface. Well, lights are still on the safety car, so we will be going for one more lap at least. And since it's so close to the end of the race, you'd think that the drivers wouldn't have prepared for this eventuality, so they'll end up finishing with more fuel than they need anyway.
Yeah, almost everyone is going to have no concerns at all about fuel economy. Even John Peasnick. I'm surprised he took as much as he did when he already knew we were headed for a safety car period. So at the final corner, looking for the lights to go off the safety car this time, s'il vous plaît.
Yes.
And I'm seeing that now, indeed. So that is a good sign. This lap just done for Luis Polo Gallon, 4 minutes 16. So
Okay.
on that numbers, we're expecting that at the end of this lap will be 2 laps to go, a 2-lap dash. Luis Polo Gallon there, almost willing the safety car to carry on and pick up a little bit more pace. And isn't that just very, very racing driver of him? You never hear a Formula One race where any of the drivers say, the safety car's going a bit too fast.
Yeah, certainly. Well, Sean Reed's still trying to make his way back to the pits with that damaged car, but having many, many difficulties. Hopefully, he'll be able to get back going and at least be classified by the end. But my estimate of a safety car lap time was way too optimistic, I have to say. I mean, I was saying, just over 3 minutes, not 4 minutes, and 4.5 minutes almost.
Yeah, indeed.
Just goes to show the length of this circuit sometimes doesn't quite compute in your mind because it is such a fast circuit.
Yep, still quite a long lap. It's longer than Bathurst, longer than Road America, and many of those other circuits that are quite a big lap. So. And of course, I don't need to tell you about this. Used to be quite a lot longer than that, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Spa first opening in 1922 with a layout of over 15 kilometers. In fact,
You've got a video about this.
I certainly do.
What we should have done is just started playing that at the start of this safety car. We'd have all learned some fantastic facts about Spa-Francorchamps and the proposed layouts that never got built when they shortened it. And then we could come back for this fantastic green flag racing instead. What have we done? Wasted our time watching Sean Reed try to catch up to the pack. It's entertained for a bit, but it's just a bit of what could have been.
It's a lesson for the future, David. Maybe some split screen can be used throughout the rest of the season. I don't know. We'll have to see. Jay saying, I need more content now. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I'm guessing we can't play the Christmas song video, unfortunately. But
No. That's not worthy of broadcast on the iRacing Esports Network. We're not letting that
worthy
video
of making it my phone ringtone. But
are you serious?
No. It's worthy of it. I just haven't done it. Certainly.
Now I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I've built you up just to tear you down like that. We are only a couple corners away from ending this madness by doing the only thing that restores our sanity, and that's hearing some racing cars at full throttle.
Yes, indeed. I'm looking forward to hearing the revs rise once again, and this time Luis Polo Gallon is in charge of the start, so it's going to be difficult for the JP Racing guys behind him to coordinate themselves relative to him. Also a single file restart too, so your ability to get a jump on arrival, not quite as easy.
Yeah, and I hate to dredge up the past because a summer series is a new start, but Luis Polo Gallon is a wily fox around a safety car restart. I don't think he was previously punished in one of the Sprint Series races for doing too much to back up the pack before a restart at Phillip Island. He might have learnt from that. I'm not saying he's going to do anything silly or anything foolish, but if he knows his rules around the restart, he'll do everything in his power to make sure he gets a good getaway relative to those two shiny competitors he's got behind him. He's backed the field up a little bit. He's backing them up a bit further. When will he send that Mercedes engine into the power it's now?
Yep, right at the apex of the last corner, and it's a good jump from Gallon, good jump from the McLarens as well. The top three pulling a gap already on everyone else, and a very clean start further back in the field. So 9 cars, actually no, I make a mistake. Sean Reed is back out on track, so he will be classified at the end of this, and it will be 1 lap to go, I believe, right at the end of this one. So for John Peasnick, the time to make a move is potentially now. Gallon tries to stay in the middle, goes all the way to driver's right, and it could be a potential outside pass, but Peasnick not quite able to get it done. Gallon with a bit of lost momentum in the middle of those corners. Peasnick getting his work cut out for him here. Gallon is an aggressive racer, but that doesn't mean he doesn't know how to defend.
Yeah, Peasnick elbows out the most we've seen yet. Almost looking for a move down into Rivage. Didn't happen. No white flag yet. It'll be next time. So they've got 14 kilometers from this restart to duke it out. Peasnick just getting back on the paved surface there instead of skating across the grass that we've seen.
Oh no! Oh no, there he goes! He's around! He's around! Oh no! Another mistake there, and Reese Gasol had to take avoiding action, so both of them have lost positions right at the very end. It's gone wrong for JP Racing once again. Luis Paulo Gallon now alone, and oh, there's another incident. Daniel Misdale, and I think that's Gasol. Gasol making contact with Misdale there. There goes Peasnick. My goodness. Right at the very end, it all goes wrong for JP Racing. Let's see what happened to Peasnick here. It was right in the middle of Huon. Something we've been talking about all race, the McLaren's ability to snap on a dime. Just a bit too much curb there for Peasnick, and around he went. Gasol avoiding making contact with his teammate, but still slow getting back onto the circuit. Now at this point as a racing driver, you think I just need to get back up to pace as quickly as possible, but Gasol obviously on the inside there, and Misdale turning in.
Yeah, Misdale had the big momentum. He's tried to go around the outside, but Gasol was still there, and I think unfortunately that's on Misdale. They're well back onto the racing surface, into the braking zone.
Yeah.
Misdale has room around the outside. Just might not have judged the closing speeds right, because of course it's a rare situation there. You got the driver recovering back onto the circuit. He thought he had more speed, but in the braking zone he really didn't quite. He's just closed down on him too hard. It's a shame for Gasol and a shame for Misdale, and it's all come unstuck. 2 laps to go for JPR Racing, unfortunately. Luis Paulo Gallon has 3 seconds in the lead. Can Trent Thomas close any of that down on the final lap? I'm not sure he can.
Well, his previous lap was 7/10 slower than Gallon, but actually I make a mistake once again, the length of the track throwing me off. That was the restart lap off the safety car. But in terms of Trent Thomas, now the shoe is on the other foot because he is getting pressured by Stuber.
Yeah, Stuber has made his pit stop, got that car very nicely fixed compared to some of the stuff we saw on it earlier. Stuber doing a good job here, following along in Trent Thomas's draft, knowing that he's had some problems doing so off Gasol earlier. Stuber doing a great job staring down a podium. He's got quite the gap to Philip Morton behind since Misdale and Gasol came together, opened up a nice buffer behind Stuber. He just needs to follow through here to grab a podium if he can. Luis Paulo Gallon has started the final lap, of course.
Yes, indeed, and he's only got a couple of turns to go. Lapped traffic just up ahead. That is Sean Reed letting him go. So Reed will very fortunately be classified at the end of this one. Good one. And for Luis Paulo Gallon, all he had to do was keep it together, keep it going forward. Couple of small errors from him, but It wasn't enough to stop this victory for Luis Paulo Gallon. In the Epiroc Summer Series, he can put his name on the winner's trophy for round 2. Congratulations, Luis. You are the winner. Second place is going to go to Trent Thomas, who I'm certain did not expect that coming into this one. Cameron Stuber getting a podium for his troubles.
Yep. So, great day to pick up some scraps for some of these drivers who thought maybe a top 5 is possible, and now Cameron Stuber finds himself on the podium. 4th, a fantastic result for Philip Morton as well, and wounded and weary Reece Gasol thought a podium was possible, and it's come undone late in the race. He finishes there in 8th.
So then the official race results. Luis Paulo Gallon taking victory. Thomas and Stuber on the podium. Philip Morton 6.6 behind in 4th place. Alex Court making it a top 5. Aaron Specchio finishes in 6th. A good job after starting from 11th. John Peasnick and Reece Gasol 7th and 8th. But for all intents and purposes, they should have been 1 and 2 if qualifying was anything to go by. Daniel Misdale and Sean Reed, the last 2 classified finishers. Martin Crisp and Ross Rizzo, unfortunately not making it to the finish.
What an exciting finish to that race. Drama that I don't think any of us predicted. It was shaping up to be an interesting battle through the pit stop strategy, and that safety car threw a spanner in the works. I'd say several spanners in those works.
Yes, indeed. Well, before we go to the post-race show, one more time, a message from our title sponsor, Epiroc.
With Epiroc, I've had the opportunity to work internationally, study and develop my skill set. This is what inspires me.
Epiroc Australia is looking for passionate people to be part of our global team and to make a real difference for our customers. If you're ready to start a new journey, visit us at epiroc.com.au. So then, post-race, waiting for our top 3 to come in so we can have a chat to them. Certainly looking like this is going to be a fun series going into the rest of the summer, because despite the small field, we have some really good racing.
Oh yeah, for the second week in a row, a lot of drivers get to demonstrate their talents, and the results not entirely predictable. Great mix of machinery once again. I mean, those McLarens looked mighty strong down the long straights here, but in the end, they just weren't quite stable enough, weren't quite safe enough. Mercedes takes the victory, and a big what could have been for Ross Rizzo in the BMW. We were hoping that could have given us some more excitement. Not the fault of the BMW, unfortunate technical issues for Ross Rizzo. So hopefully we'll see him again later in the season at the GT3 rounds in that car. Speaking of the next of those GT3 rounds, January 16 at Barcelona. Little break from here for Christmas and New Year's, but then this series is back and truly in the swing of it, January and February.
Yes, indeed. And next round is at Le Mans. We're back in the GTE machinery for that one. But now it's time to go to our top 3. And first off, the race winner, Luis Paulo Gallon. Welcome, Luis, and congratulations on your victory. It was a tough race for you guys up the front, facing off against those 2 McLarens.
Yeah, thanks, Reece. Thank you. Yeah, man, very tricky conditions. The track seemed like there was no grip whatsoever. And the McLaren is pretty quick in straight line. At the beginning of the race, I was trying just to stay with John and Reece as well. And Reece made a mistake. I was trying to hold on and John like behind, but yeah, very tricky, very tricky.
We noticed that the McLarens came a cropper in these conditions with some oversteer issues, and you looked like you were having a tough time with it as well. A big slide at a Paul Frere curve. How were your tyres feeling by the very end?
Well, we all know the McLarens. That car, it's very light on the rear, and My car, well, my rear tires were pretty worn off at the end of of the race, but I was just trying to keep on the tarmac, and well, it seems it pays off.
It certainly did. Will we see you for round 3 at Le Mans when we get back to the GTE cars? Sorry.
Reese, to be honest, I'm not keen on the GTE anymore. Um, GT3 are my car of choice, has always been, and it's more my style of driving. I think it's the car I have most of fun driving it. So I will be back on the next round of the GT3s, but I will skip the GT.
Okay, we'll be missing your presence at Le Mans, Louise. Before we
Thank you.
let you go, who would you like to thank? Who gets it done for you? Any shout outs, sponsors?
Well, just the LP Racing, Cameron Stuber as well. Congratulations to him. He's from WA as well, and yeah, yeah, not many people to thank. It's just myself on the team, and Cameron is it's the guy I try to help, with setups and racing lines and all the things I can. He's a very nice guy. Happy for him to make the podium.
Yeah, certainly. And we'll be speaking to him very shortly as well. Thanks for joining us, Louise. And we'll go to our second place man, Mr. David Haynes, because you got Trent Thomas with you.
Yeah, Trent on the podium, good haul of points here in what was otherwise going to be a bit of a mixed day for Trick Sim Sports.
Yeah, it's a bit surprising actually. It's probably the most unlikely podium I'll ever get. I didn't get a chance to do any practice laps at all during the week. First laps were in the qualifying session and using a setup from a year ago. So, all in all, as a race car, it was actually pretty good. Tyres held on pretty well. It was a good battle there with Cameron Stubber for a while, but yeah, managed to jump them in the pit stops, and of course the caution come out.
A late safety car, meaning a 2-lap dash to the end. Were you under much pressure then, or cool as a cucumber?
Yeah, I was feeling a little bit. I didn't feel the car was very good in a straight line, so I was just trying to concentrate on getting my exits good. I knew I was pretty good through the twisty stuff, and I just had to make sure I got those long straights, the exits before them, on point, and I managed to do that thing.
Well, this summer series, a little bit more casual, a little bit more laid back than the Sprint Series Australia. How are you finding it so far? And we're going to see you for a bunch more rounds in the new year.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking to try and do a few. It's good that we don't have to commit to the whole series. We can just do the races that we want, no locked car, all that sort of stuff. So I missed round 1, but I couldn't miss driving the Merc this round. And yeah, it's just good to have that bit of pressure off where we're not just doing laps constantly all week trying to get the setup nailed and rah rah. You can sort of just get a basic setup and come racing, just have some fun.
Good point there. Any car changes in GT3 you think are in the works for some later rounds?
Unlikely. The Merc's the car I drive. I don't really know the other cars that well, and I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of laps in this car, so it's likely I'll stick to this one for GT.
Home is where the heart is. So before we let you go, any thanks you need to give?
Yeah, give the shout out to all the boys at Trick Sim Sports, Tricks Custom Fabrications, Knight Rider Designs, and JR.
There we go. Back over to you, Reese. A couple more people we can pick their brains.
Yes, indeed. And our third place man is going to be the final driver interview of the night, Cameron Stubber. Welcome to the commentary box. It was a big battle between you and Trent Thomas in the first half of the race, but you ended up taking that later pit stop.
Yeah, it wasn't just Trent giving me trouble during the middle of that race. It was with Daniel Misdale as well, and things were going pretty well, I thought. But after sort of 4 or 5 laps, my tyres really started to die, and then you would have seen that my sort of 0.4 second gap to the front dropped out to like 2 seconds, and then I started having to defend a lot. So yeah, I just saw them pit early, and I thought, oh well, I'll try and stretch the fuel out. And yeah, then the safety car happened, which was not in my favour, really. I don't think. probably could have got a bit less fuel if it had been 10 seconds sooner. So, but that's how it goes, I guess.
You still got a third place out of it, which you should be happy with. And it looks like for the first lap or so after the restart, you were still pressuring Trent. So that car obviously had some pace in it.
Yeah, exactly. After it's had some time to cool off. So yeah, definitely happy with the podium. First time I'm here. It's quite nice in the comms box, obviously, for anybody who's still aspiring to get in here. They got a nice comfy couch and everything.
We do.
But yeah, it was, only a couple of laps to go, and being in with that chance, once I saw John and Reese have that unfortunate incident, I thought, well, I'm going to give it everything now since I'm here. What's one more?
Exactly, and getting a podium out of it as well for your troubles. In terms of the rest of the season, obviously starting on a high with your third place, will we see you at Le Mans, or will you be sticking to the GT3 rounds?
No, I'm going to be racing everything I can get to. I think iRacing sort of the platform for those of us out there who want to race. We don't really care what we're racing. We just want to be involved. So, yeah, you'll see me at every round I can get to. And with the GTEs, I'm just happy to be out of the Ford from last season. So I'm back to my Porsche where I feel a bit more comfortable with my driving style. So hopefully a bit better results overall on the GTE side of things.
We shall certainly see. Well, before we let you go, Cameron, who gets it done for you? Shout outs and sponsors.
Obviously GT Leagues and Epiroc, they get it done for me since they're the ones who are making all this possible. And of course, you guys with your great broadcast and also have to thank the boys at Exto Gaming. They give me a lot of support and keep me around, so that's nice. And of course, shout out to Louise. He's spent quite a lot of time helping me trying to improve this year, and it's muchly appreciated.
Third place man, Cameron Stuber there. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, David, that brings to an end proceedings for tonight. And the fun doesn't stop on SimSpeed TV. We have obviously got AOSC tomorrow night at Bathurst for the final race of the 2019 season. On Saturday, we have got the qualifying series for the Porsche Esports Super Cup. And on Monday, of course, we have official supercars on iRacing. Fun times ahead. But in terms of this series, we got Le Mans up next.
Yep, in the new year as well. So until then, I hope you have yourself a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yeah, and same to you, and same to all of the listeners and watchers out there. Thank you very much for your support over the year, both on our own channel at SimSpeed TV and on the iRacing Esports Network. We give our thanks to Epiroc as well and GT Leagues Australia for putting this whole thing on. Certainly an entertaining way to spend a Thursday night for drivers and spectators. That was round 2 of the Epiroc Summer Series from Spa. Luis Paulo Gallon, your winner in his Mercedes. From us here at SimSpeed TV on the iRacing Esports Network, it's bye for now.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
This is very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go.
Oh no! That's massive!
This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?